There's a forest in Japan where silence feels wrong, as if something hidden is listening. At the base of Mount Fuji lies Aokigahara, better known as the Forest of the Lost. Its beauty hides something ancient, a place where compasses fail, voices echo from nowhere, and the air itself feels alive. Locals speak of yūrei, spirits of those who never found peace, still wandering among the roots and caves. But what happens when the living step inside? Tonight, we'll explore 4 real stories from hikers, workers, and travelers who claim they came face to face with the forest as darkness and somehow lived to tell the tale. Welcome to the Dread Horror Channel. Subscribe, comment, and share to help YouTube send it to more people, and activate the bell for more terrifying stories. I'm Morrigan, and this is the Forest of the Lost. Stay close, because once you enter, the forest doesn't always let you leave. Hey Morrigan, this happened to me last spring. I can't keep it bottled up anymore. I just need someone to believe me. My name's Ethan. I'm 34, and I've lived in Japan for almost a decade. I'm an English teacher in Shizuoka, not too far from Mount Fuji. I love hiking. It's how I clear my head. Last April, I decided to spend a weekend exploring the trails around Aokigahara. I'd been there once before with friends, but this time, I went alone. I remember standing at the forest edge early that morning, sunlight barely breaking through the canopy, the air colder than it should have been. There's a sign at the entrance warning visitors not to leave the path. It says, "Think of your family." I took a picture of it. I thought it was poetic back then. Now, I wish I'd listened. At first, the forest was breathtaking, dense, quiet, like walking inside a dream. The ground was soft from volcanic rock, and every step seemed to sink into the earth. But about 30 minutes in, the atmosphere changed. It wasn't just quiet. It was hollow, like all the sound had been sucked away. No birds, no wind, just my own breathing echoing in my ears. Then I saw the tape. If you've never been there, people leave colorful ribbons tied to trees, red, blue, yellow, so they can find their way back. But the one I saw was different. It was black, torn, faded. It looked old. I don't know why, but I followed it. Maybe curiosity, maybe something else. The trail wound deeper into the forest, and I swear, the temperature dropped. I started hearing faint whispers, like voices layered under the sound of my footsteps. I stopped several times to listen, but every time I did, the forest went completely still. I told myself it was wind or imagination. But then, around noon, I found the campsite. A small tent, half collapsed, covered in moss. A backpack nearby. I called out, no answer. I unzipped the tent. Inside were old clothes, a flashlight with dead batteries, and a notebook wrapped in plastic. I shouldn't have read it, but something compelled me to. The first page said, "If you find this, please tell my mother I tried to come home." My hands were shaking. The rest of the notebook was filled with rambling sentences, someone talking to the voices. They said the forest wanted them. The last entry read, "The woman in white says I can rest now." At that exact moment, I heard a twig snap behind me. I turned. There was someone standing about 10 feet away, a woman dressed in what looked like a white kimono, her hair long and black, hanging over her face. I thought maybe she was a lost hiker, until she moved, not walked, glided. My throat went dry. I said, "Are you okay?" She didn't answer. She tilted her head, slowly, and that's when I noticed her feet weren't touching the ground. I backed away, tripping over a root. When I looked up again, she was gone. Just gone. I ran. I don't remember which direction. The forest twisted itself around me. Paths that didn't exist before suddenly appeared, ribbons tied to trees that I swear weren't there. I yelled until my voice broke, hoping someone would hear me. Then, through the trees, I saw a flash of color, a red ribbon. I followed it, desperate. I didn't care where it led. After what felt like an hour, I stumbled onto a main trail and collapsed. 2 park rangers found me sometime later. They said I'd wandered almost 2 miles off the mapped route. When they took me back to the entrance, I looked over my shoulder. Through the trees, I saw her again, the same woman, this time closer. Her hair lifted slightly, though there was no wind. Her mouth moved. I couldn't hear what she said, but I think I know. She was saying my name. I left Japan 2 months later. I've never gone hiking again. But sometimes, when the night is silent, I hear the same whisper, like she followed me home. Some nights are really hard to sleep. Am I scarred forever? What do you think? Hugs. Damn Ethan. This story echoes hundreds of reports from hikers and search teams who've entered Aokigahara and returned changed. Locals call the woman in white yūrei, no Hanayom, the bride spirit, said to lure those burdened by guilt or grief. Whether Ethan saw a ghost or the forest itself playing tricks on his mind, we may never know. But what's undeniable is how Aokigahara seems to feed on emotion, sorrow, curiosity, fear, and sometimes, when you look into that darkness long enough, it looks right back. Let's move on to the next story. Hello, Morrigan. My name's Kenji. I've worked with the Yamanashi Volunteer Rescue Unit for nearly 7 years. I've seen things in Aokigahara that would make most people turn back after 10 minutes. But what happened during one particular mission still keeps me awake at night. Not because of what we found, but because of what found us. It was October of 2019. The police had received a missing persons report. A young man, mid-20s, last seen parking his car near the Narisawa ice cave. His girlfriend said he'd gone hiking to clear his mind and never came back. We'd done hundreds of these searches before. Usually we found either nothing or the worst possible outcome. But this time felt different. The morning we entered the forest, fog hung thick and heavy, swallowing sound. I was team leader that day, 6 of us in total, all experienced, equipped with GPS, radios, and enough supplies for a 48-hour search. Aokigahara can disorient even the best trained hikers, but we knew the terrain well. At first, everything went according to protocol. We spread out in a line formation, about 20 meters apart, keeping visual contact. The forest was quiet except for the crunch of boots and the occasional rustle of leaves. About an hour in, Yuto, one of our newer volunteers, called out that he'd found something. I made my way to him, and there it was, a blue tent, half hidden behind a fallen tree. It looked fresh, not abandoned for long. We called out several times, but no response. The entrance was zipped. I unzipped it slowly. Inside was a sleeping bag, empty, but still warm. That's when we noticed a radio beside it. Not one of ours, but a small black handheld transceiver. Its battery indicator was dead, but the last frequency read 142.3 megahertz, the emergency band. Someone had tried to call for help. We took note of the coordinates and kept moving. But as we went deeper, something started to feel off. The GPS signals began to flicker, dropping in and out. Static crawled across our radios. At first, it was just white noise. Then, a voice. Help. Please. The transmission came faintly, distorted, but clear enough to freeze every one of us. I pressed my radio button. This is Unit Leader Kenji of Yamanashi Search. Identify yourself. Static. Then, faintly again. She won't let me go. Yuto's face went pale. He looked at me and whispered, "That's his voice." He showed me a photo from the missing persons file. The same man, same tone. We thought maybe he was nearby, injured, so we followed the signal. But the deeper we went, the louder the static grew. The forest seemed to swallow our bearings whole. Around 4 p.m., we reached a small clearing. There, hanging from a low branch, was a black ribbon, torn, weathered, the same type people use to mark their paths. And beneath it, the man's backpack. Everything inside was neatly packed. A water bottle half full. A notebook with a single phrase scribbled over and over. "She's behind me." Yuto began to panic. "Kenji, he's dead. We should leave." But before I could answer, our radios came alive again. Every one of them. This time, the voice wasn't asking for help. It was laughing. A low, distorted laugh that shifted in pitch, almost mechanical. I ordered everyone to turn off their radios immediately, but the sound didn't stop. It grew louder, like it was coming from the trees themselves. Then the forest erupted with whispers. Dozens of voices. Men, women, children, all overlapping, all saying the same word. Stay. The fog grew thicker. We could barely see 3 meters ahead. The forest was closing in. I called for the team to regroup, but when I turned, 2 of my men were gone. No noise, no movement. Just gone. Panic set in. I shouted into the fog, fired a flare. No response. The forest was completely silent again, and Yuto screamed. I spun around. He was staring at something in the mist. A figure in white, maybe 20 feet away. Long black hair. Pale face. No eyes, just dark sockets that seemed to absorb the light. She moved forward, gliding across the ground. The mist swirled around her, and the temperature plummeted. My flashlight flickered. Every instinct told me to run, but my legs wouldn't move. She stopped inches from Yuto, tilting her head. He dropped to his knees, gasping like the air was being pulled out of him. I shouted, but she turned toward me and smiled. That smile didn't belong to anything human. I grabbed Yuto by the arm and dragged him away. We didn't stop running until we reached the main trail. 2 hours later, we found the rest of the team. They swore they'd been following me the whole time, but I hadn't seen them once. We never found the missing hiker. But 3 days later, local police picked up a faint emergency signal near where we'd lost him. When they triangulated it, they found the radio. It was still transmitting, but the battery had been dead for days. The last words recorded on that frequency were, "Don't come back. I quit the rescue unit that same month." I still live near Yamanashi, but I never go near the forest anymore. Sometimes, late at night, my radio crackles with static, and I swear, I can still hear that laugh. I've heard many people talk about these unexplained radio incidents recorded by search teams in Aokigahara. Locals say the forest interferes with the signals, but some believe it's not the trees, it's the spirits. The voice he heard, the laughter, mirrors descriptions of the Onru, vengeful entities that supposedly trap souls in the forest. What's haunting is not just what he saw, but what followed him. Sometimes, the forest doesn't need to take your body. It only needs your mind. Hello, Morrigan. I've been a professional photographer for 12 years. Mostly landscapes and abandoned places. I always believed a good photo could tell a story better than words ever could. But the photos I took in Aokigahara tell a story I wish I'd never seen. My name's Dylan. I'm from the UK, but in 2022, I spent 6 months in Japan working on a project called Silent Earth, a photo series about desolate places. My last stop was Aokigahara, near Mount Fuji. I'd seen pictures of it before. Moss-covered trees, twisted roots, shafts of light cutting through the fog. It looked hauntingly beautiful. I thought I could capture that eerie calm that made it so unique. The locals at my hotel warned me not to go alone. The old woman at the front desk even refused to give me directions. She said, "The forest doesn't like to be photographed." I laughed it off. I'd been in ghost towns, collapsed tunnels, and war ruins. How bad could a forest be? I entered Aokigahara early in the morning. The sky was bright, but the forest swallowed most of the light. It was like stepping into another world. The ground was uneven and soft, like walking over sleeping bodies. I followed the marked path for a while, then veered off to get better shots of the landscape. My camera clicked endlessly. Wide shots of the canopy, close-ups of moss and vines, the kind of imagery that would look great in black and white. Around noon, I found an old rope hanging from a tree, frayed, snapped halfway. I froze. There was a feeling that came over me. Not fear exactly, but something worse. Awareness. Like the forest had just noticed me. I backed away, switched lenses, and snapped one picture, just one, before continuing. A few minutes later, I realized I could no longer hear my own footsteps. The sound had been swallowed. My ears began to ring with that kind of static you get when it's too quiet. Then came the first whisper. Turn around. It was right behind me. I spun around, no one. Just trees. The air was freezing now, even though it was summer. My breath fogged. I tried to tell myself it was the wind. I started recording video, thinking maybe I'd catch the sound. That's when my camera's focus began to shift on its own, the lens moving without me touching it. It was focusing on something behind me. I turned again. A woman stood about 10 feet away. Long black hair, a white kimono, bare feet half sunk in moss. Her head tilted slightly, as if studying me. I tried to speak, but my voice failed. Her lips didn't move, but I heard her whisper, "Take my picture." I raised my camera, trembling. Through the lens, she was blurry, out of focus, even when I adjusted the settings. I clicked the shutter. The sound echoed unnaturally long. When I lowered the camera, she was gone. The forest fell silent again. I took a deep breath and decided I'd had enough. I turned back the way I came, or thought I did. But within minutes, I realized the trail markers were gone. My compass spun. GPS dead. My camera battery, which had been full, dropped to 0 in seconds. Panic kicked in. I started calling for help, shouting until my throat ached. Then in the distance, I heard a camera shutter. Click, click, click. I froze. It was the exact sound my camera made, but I wasn't pressing the button. The sound circled me, closer each time. Then I saw her again, the woman in white, standing just behind a tree, smiling faintly. Her eyes were pale, clouded like glass. She lifted her hand slowly, holding my camera. I checked my bag, empty. She'd taken it, or somehow it had ended up with her. I stepped back, shaking my head, whispering, "Please." She raised the camera and took one last photo. Flash. Everything went dark. When I came to, it was night. I was lying on the main trail, my camera bag beside me. Every photo was still on the SD card, except one. The picture I took of her was gone, but there was a new one. It was of me, standing in the forest, eyes open, pale, and unfocused. I left Japan the next week. I tried to delete the photo dozens of times, but it always comes back. Even when I replace the memory card, even when I buy a new camera. Every few nights, I hear the sound again. Click, 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 like she's still taking pictures of me. This is my account of that forest, and a word of advice: never go in there alone. Never. Dylan, thanks for the story. WOW. This is one of Japan's most chilling legends, the white kimono yūrei, who supposedly imprisons the souls of those who photograph her. The belief is simple. She steals your reflection ... one image at a time. What's frightening is not just the curse, but how the evidence of it has endured. A photo that refuses to be erased, that's not a mistake. It's a warning. If you were in Dylan's shoes, what would your action be? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more true stories like this, because what comes next is even darker. Hello, Morrigan. My name is Akira. I was born and raised near Mount Fuji, in a small village not far from Aokigahara. I heard all the stories, the legends, the disappearances, the curses, but I never believed any of them. For me, the forest was just ... home. Beautiful, mysterious, but harmless. Until last year. My brother Hiroshi worked as a volunteer guide for tourists hiking near the forest's edge. He always said the same thing: if you follow the ropes, you'll be fine. He had entered hundreds of times without any problems. But in September 2023, he disappeared during a routine morning check on the East Trail. The police searched for 2 weeks, nothing. I couldn't accept it. I knew my brother, he wasn't careless. So I decided to enter Aokigahara myself, retracing his steps. I didn't tell anyone. I started early. Around 6 a.m., the air was cold and heavy, the kind that sticks to your skin. I followed the red rope that guides hikers, the same one Hiroshi used. Everything was silent except for my own breathing. I passed some markers the police had left, bright ribbons fluttering on the branches, and for a moment, I almost felt safe. Then the rope ended. It just ... stopped. No cut, no fraying, as if it had never continued. I looked around, but the trail seemed to disappear, the trees weaving closer together. The forest was different here, darker, heavier. The air itself seemed denser, almost humming. I turned to go back, but the direction had vanished. I should have panicked, but something about the silence calmed me, unnaturally. Then I saw it, a dim light deeper in the forest, warm yellow like a flashlight. I thought it might be Hiroshi, so I followed. Each step made the ground softer, sinking slightly under my weight. The light floated ahead, always just far enough to keep me in pursuit. Then, without warning, I found myself in a clearing. There was a torii gate, one of those ancient Shinto arches covered in moss, half buried. Below it, a wooden shrine stood crooked, its roof caved in, but the lantern burned brightly inside. I approached and saw offerings, faded origami cranes, coins, wilted flowers. Then I saw something else. My brother's ID badge. It hung on the gate, covered in dirt, his photo still visible. I reached for it, trembling. The second my fingers touched it, the flame inside the shrine flickered and went out. Darkness swallowed everything. I stumbled back, trying to use the light from my phone, but the screen glowed only static, with faces glowing. No faces many, all silently screaming. Static spread through the air as whispers surrounded me. Some spoke Japanese, others a language I couldn't understand. One voice stood out from the rest, a woman's. He came looking for me, ... Now you've come too. A shiver ran through me as I turned, and there she was, the same woman the locals whisper about, the one in the white kimono. But contrary to the stories, she wasn't floating or ghostly. She seemed alive, pale but breathing, eyes as black as ink. "Where's my brother?" I asked. She gave a weak smile. "He walks with the trees now." I blinked, and she was gone. The whispers ceased, replaced by a distant, rhythmic sound. Thump, ... thump, ... thump. I followed him, desperate for any sign of escape. The trees parted slightly, and I saw him. Hiroshi. He had his back turned, wearing the same jacket he'd worn the day he disappeared. His head tilted slightly, as if listening. I called his name. He didn't move. When I reached him, I froze. His face was gray, his eyes empty like glass. His skin was cold, but he was standing, breathing softly. "Hiroshi?" His mouth opened slowly. "You shouldn't have come." The voice wasn't his. Before I could move, the forest shifted again, the trees curving inward like ribs closing around us. I ran. I don't remember how long or where, only that at some point, I fell through the dense undergrowth and landed on solid ground. When I opened my eyes, I was at the entrance to the forest. My clothes were soaked, and Hiroshi's badge was still in my hand. I went straight to the authorities. They searched again, same area, same route. They found nothing. No torii gate, no shrine, no sign of the clearing I described. It's been a year since then. The badge is in a box next to my bed. And every morning, when I pass through the forest on my way to work, I see the same light between the trees. I turn and quicken my pace. I hope you like it. Hugs. Oh, Akira, I'm so sorry about your brother. It seems the forest decides who can leave and who can't. In Japanese folklore, the torii marks the threshold between the mortal and divine worlds. But in Aokigahara, it can open to a darker place. The idea of trails appearing and disappearing is common in hikers' accounts. Some claim the trees rearrange themselves, trapping those who enter uninvited. Others say it's not the trees that move, it's you. If you saw that bright light tonight, ... would you follow it? Leave your comments below. I read every single one. And if this story made your heart race, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The next episode might contain your story. Each of these stories from Aokigahara reminds us that some places were never meant to be explored. Not because of the danger you can see, but because of the things waiting in the silence you can't. The Forest of the Lost has stood for centuries at the edge of Mount Fuji, watching generations come and go, collecting whispers, regrets, and souls that refuse to move on. Maybe the yūrei, those restless spirits, are not lost at all. Maybe they're the ones guarding the forest. From us, tonight's stories weren't legends. They were confessions. Real people who walked too deep and came back changed, or didn't come back at all. So tell me, would you enter Aokigahara if it called your name? Drop your answer in the comments below. And before you go, on the final screen, I recommend 2 more videos for you to continue watching. You'll all find 5 true Halloween night horror stories, and 4 true stories of truck drivers and haunted roads. Watch them if you dare. Until next time, and if you ever hear your name in the forest, don't answer.